This portion of the news brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
The government has engaged one of the world's leading economic firms to conduct an economic analysis on the economy, according to Prime Minister Perry Christie. This comes on the heels of growing opposition to the government's plans to introduce a value-added tax slated to be implemented on July 1st. The Prime Minister, who was speaking at the opening of the Island Outsourcers Call Center on Grand Bahama Thursday, said it is his intention to leave the country in the best possible position when he exits his post.
When I go to the Bahamian people on this issue of taxation, I'm going all the way. I would have consulted, I would have listened, I would have settled my position, and I would stand or fall on that position. But the one thing the Bahamian people would know, they would be able to see in black and white all the arguments for and against, and how the decision was reasoned and rationalized to a conclusion.
Member of Parliament from Marco City, Greg Moss, went on record saying he would vote against the VAT bill when it is presented, which he called a bad law in its present form during his contribution to the Bahamas Spatial Data Infrastructure Bill in the House of Assembly Wednesday. Responding, Christie said it is his view, which Moss is entitled to.
That leads Greg Moss to vote against it. So be it. Intelligent men and women are presumed to make intelligent decisions. And public positions taken oblige me as the leader of the country not to run away from those positions. One, to see it as the right of an individual to have such a view, and a fundamental right for that individual to be able to express that point of view and to vote upon that point of view if they so desire.
It's something that's been talked about a great deal last year, a standards bureau. The unit would monitor and measure imported goods into the country. Financial Services Minister Ryan Pinder said in a recent interview with ZNS News that it should be in place by year's end. Pinder said government has heard the cry of Bahamians that certain products may not be up to standard, with particular concern to those that read expert only on the packaging. He said the Standards Bureau would make sure the standards concerned on food and products are met.
We should have revised legislation ready within the coming month, ready to come to Parliament to bring it up to internationally best practices. We've already secured grant funding to help support some of the equipment and laboratories that are needed. We're seeking additional grant funding, trying to access grant funding so it's not a burden on Bahamians as far as tax revenues. And we've found some good success in there. The European Union has agreed to work with us in that regard. So by the end of 2014, we think we will have made a lot of headway in firmly establishing the Standards Bureau and working with the Department of Agriculture on food safety standards to make sure those are up to par and best practices.
A cultural king laid to rest today. Hundreds turned out to pay their final respects to sailing legend and entertainer King Eric Gibson during a homegoing service at Bahamas Faith Ministries. The 79-year-old was a nation builder who left an indelible mark in the entertainment and sports arenas. A fitting tribute from his grandchildren in a medley of songs for a man whose influence on the Bahamian music industry is far-reaching. Hundreds packed the Diplomat Center to pay final respects to legendary entertainer and sailing pioneer King Eric Gibson. One by one, family, friends, and colleagues all reflected on the life of the patriotic Bahamian.
King Eric Gibson was the cultural container of our nation. He captured the spirit, the heart, the beat, the folklore of our people. He was a faithful keeper of the cultural flame. And now, that flame has been passed.
One of those persons who stood at the front line to make this country what it is today.
King believed it was important for entertainers to be self-employed and by extension, circulating the revenue to the over-the-hill areas, keeping the Bahamian culture alive, and maintaining pride for Bahamian superstars.
Aside from his passion for the entertainment and sporting industries, we learned just how close King Eric's family was to him.
He was Papa, the man who put his family above everything. He showed us by example the importance of loving each other wholeheartedly and without compromise.
You were not only my father, you were also my friend. Someone I could always go to, my savior, my knight. You always made it right. You corrected me, encouraged me, spoke words to me.
Prime Minister Perry Christie lauded Gibson as a nation builder. He again reiterated the need for the story of great Bahamians like King Eric to be documented.
Help us put together that person or those persons who will research his story and who will be able to capture the journey. Because future generations of Gibsons, who will be in their thousands, should first of all intimately know that story.
And as the curtain closes on this chapter of Bahamian culture, his legacy lives on.
I want you to know that what he did in his life will always reflect us. He was a true Bahamian, and his legacy is that after most of us are gone and forgotten, what he did in his lifetime will represent us for eternity.
Following the funeral, King Eric's body was taken to the Weston Cemetery on a sailing vessel. A state-recognized memorial service to remember the life and contributions of cultural icon Winston Gus Cooper was held last night in Rawson Square. A number of persons recalled how Gus impacted their lives in some way, but it was Prime Minister Perry Christie who touched on his caliber of leadership that he says would be unequaled in the course of this country. He said Gus brought character and leadership and was the kind of man who decided there would be no alcohol or drugs in the Junkanoo Shacks in an effort to inculcate values, brotherhood, and real friendship.
5 years he danced across the national stage set up right here. He demonstrated the qualities of a real man, that sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but you keep on coming back. 7 times down, 8 times up. He set a wonderful example for young people in this country. It was my privilege as Prime Minister to lead my government into doing whatever we could have done for our friend and for the person we admired greatly. Love is personal. I loved him for the example he set for young men, in particular in our community, who believed in him. I think of all of the young leaders who was a part of his. Think of Paul Knowles tonight. I think of those who've gone to their eternal reward.
Saxon's leader Percy Vola Francis was grateful for the life of Gus Cooper, but he said their rivalry was something limited to the Junkanoo arena.
Gus and I, we may have been rivals, yes, but only for a few hours downtown here on this main street. If the Saxons had won, he would call me and congratulate me. If the Valley Boys had won, I would do likewise. I will call Gus and congratulate him. And then we went on with our business as friends.
As the Bahamas celebrates its first majority rule holiday, the Starlight Global Foundation is preparing to host an open-air concert called A Night of Inspiration in honor of the late Nelson Mandela for his devotion to the fight for freedom and his contribution to humanity. South African High Commissioner to the Bahamas, Her Excellency Matthew Joyini, is in town for the special event. She congratulated the Bahamas on celebrating its first majority rule holiday and the need to recognize the date. This year, April, South Africa will celebrate 20 years of freedom and democracy.
It's similar. When I looked at it, it's similar to what we do in South Africa. We do that day, the 27th of April, which was the first election for everyone, was very important, and hence it's a holiday in South Africa. So I could relate why a day like the 10th of January 1967, why you will have such a day or declare it a holiday in the Bahamas. I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity for younger people to know about their identity, to know about their history, and to reinforce, to give people a sense of where they're coming from, where they're at, and where they're going to. So it's a very, very important day.
The South African High Commission has partnered with Starlight and Anne Bank to host the open-air concert tomorrow night. Among the featured performances are the Bahamas National Youth Choir, the Bahamas National Symphony Orchestra, the Bel Canto Singers, the Bahamas All-Stars Band, and other selected artists. Founder of the Starlight Global Foundation, Warner Gruner, says several other Bahamians will also be recognized, including Dr. Miles Monroe, whose impact is far-reaching.
This year I thought it was that the right topic would be to call it a night of inspiration. There are so many inspirational persons that I think are important to highlight from all over the world. With the support we're getting, it seems like it is an event that has become the Starlight signature event, and probably one of the best events in this country. Dr. Miles Monroe, in my opinion, has made a tremendous impact as a Bahamian, but outside the Bahamas, in the world, especially third world countries. So that's definitely somebody that we want to honor, apart from President Nelson Mandela.
Still to come, a local fraternity celebrates 100 years of existence. And later in sports, highlights from high school basketball. You're watching The Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news was brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.